Hi everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you guys a really great recipe for date night. This is going to be a gluten-free, dairy-free spaghetti recipe, and it's going to be with a very nice marinated shrimp and some asparagus. I'm really hoping that you guys try it, and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so what we're doing right now is just taking all of the shrimp and I'm just cutting the top heads of it. And the reason why I'm doing that is so that way I can create more surface area of the shrimp that's going to be absorbing the marinade that we're going to create. And it's going to make it really nice for us to just enjoy the texture. I decided not to devein this shrimp because we're cooking it. You can decide whether or not to devein it. I'm deciding not to on this one. Dealer's choice. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take 2 tablespoons of this vegan, so dairy-free, gluten-free butter, and I'm going to melt it. And we're going to start incorporating a lot of the other ingredients that we're going to be using. So we'll take the garlic, the melted butter, the salt, the pepper, and the lemon, and the parsley. And we're going to take all of those and mix it up in my little blender and throw all that together and put that on the shrimp. So I've just taken the butter and melted it, and I'm going to go ahead and throw it in the mixer. Next, I'm going to take my pre-minced garlic and throw this in here. It's about 4 cloves worth, so I'm just going to take half a tablespoon. Next, we're going to do 1/4 teaspoon of table salt. And same thing with the black pepper, 1/4 teaspoon of the black pepper. Next, we're going to take this whole lemon and we're going to juice it, and we're going to use some of the zest. We're going to zest some of the outside of the lemon and throw that in there. Next, I'm taking this parsley and I'm just dicing it up really small. I've put the marinade in the shrimp, and we're just gonna keep that kind of mixed around. We'll go ahead and get the oven started, and while we're doing that, we'll move on to the pasta. While we're waiting for the shrimp and the oven to heat up, I'm gonna go ahead and prep our dish that's gonna go with the shrimp and the pasta. We're gonna go ahead and cut the asparagus just right at the woody parts of the asparagus. We don't want to be messing with that. I like to cut this when the rubber bands are still attached because it helps consolidate everything and just get everything done in one cut. We're gonna get rid of the ends that we're not gonna use. Now we're gonna remove the rubber bands, and you can use those for later. I really like to keep those handy just whenever I need them around the house. I'm gonna grab my baking dish, and I really like to use aluminum with the parchment paper on top so that way the aluminum doesn't seep into my food. And I'm gonna lay everything out flat and give the asparagus the space that it needs. And while I do that, I'm gonna take the remaining salt and pepper that I didn't use on the shrimp, mix that up, and just sprinkle it onto the asparagus. The really lovely thing about asparagus is it doesn't need a lot. You can go ahead and just get really good flavor just by even nipping off the ends, and then doing salt and pepper and some olive oil or avocado oil. So I'm gonna take my olive oil and just sprinkle it on. And to get these really nice without being too mushy, you're gonna wanna cook this at 450 for about 12 minutes or so, and that should be good to go. With my sauce and my pasta. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the Banza spaghetti made from chickpeas, and we're gonna be taking this dairy-free Alfredo sauce and adding a few more components to it just to make it a little bit more of like a fun recipe for a date night or something like that. One of the first things I want to do is bringing my water to a boil. I'm gonna throw some olive oil in here and just a tiny bit, and I'm also gonna take some salt. And I'm gonna make a really salty water, and it's helpful to add to the flavor of the banza chickpea pasta, and it also kind of helps with the oil to make sure that it doesn't stick to each other. So I like adding both the olive oil and the salt just to kind of help with the stick and the flavor. On the Alfredo kind of sauce that we're doing. We're gonna add some olive oil to this pan. And what I'm gonna do first is take the tomatoes that I've diced and add it to this pan. The tomatoes usually take the longest to cook and they have the most water in them, so you really wanna get the tomatoes started first to boil out the water that's naturally in the tomatoes and kind of condense down the tomatoes. So this is gonna go first. We're gonna let this simmer for a little bit, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add the spinach and the peas. So now's a really good time to take the spaghetti out. And we are not gonna break the spaghetti in half. We're gonna take the whole entire section and just let it naturally warm up. Just mixing all of this. I'll throw some garlic as well in here, some of the minced garlic that we had from earlier. And the last thing that I'm gonna do is take this spinach and just let this shrink down before we throw in the Alfredo sauce. Looks like it's a really good point in terms of the spaghetti almost being done and this going to a really nice simmer. I'm gonna go ahead and just add this Alfredo sauce, the Primal Kitchen one. So now I'm incorporating the Alfredo sauce with all of my vegetables that have just been simmering. So this is looking really good for me. I'm gonna strain this and then I'm gonna mix it in with our Alfredo sauce. We're gonna take this and just throw this right in here. And now I'm just gonna take the tongs and just gently fold all the pasta in with this sauce. The asparagus is looking really good. I'm gonna just bring this up closer for you to look at. And if you take a fork to it, you can see that it's still hard. That's really nice. You don't want it to be too mushy because then it's just not an enjoyable dish. The crunch is really nice as an addition to kind of the crunchy, dense texture of the shrimp. Last but not least, our shrimp is done. And it just looks so good. You can see all the juices are still kind of in there and surrounding the shrimp, which actually gives it a really nice texture. So it's not overdone, it's not too chewy, it's just perfect. And this is the finished product, you guys. I'm really excited to eat this and to serve this as a beautiful dinner dish for date night.